Does your child who is in first grade or above do any of the following? Do they guess at words instead of trying to sound them out? Do they miss easy, high frequency, or sight words? Do they get frustrated when they can't read well? Do they prefer to do anything else other than read, or get embarrassed that younger siblings or peers can read better than them? And do you, as a parent, ever do any of the following? Do you ever wonder what you did wrong, or assume that your child's reading difficulty is your fault? Do you ever get frustrated at your child at reading time, maybe even accuse them of not trying? Do you try everything that you know how to help them? Tutors, clinics, homeschooling, everything. Do you worry about your child's future if they continue to struggle with reading? Do you try the best you know how to comfort them and tell them that they will someday get it and to just keep practicing? Well, you are not alone. There are several reasons why your child may struggle with reading. I'm April McMurtry, the developer of the Learn Reading program. In this video, I will be explaining 5 of the most common reasons why children and adults struggle with reading and how to help them. So let's get started. There are several reasons why your child may struggle with reading. The following are 5 of the most common reasons. Number 1, the student has dyslexia. Number 2, the student knows phonics but not how to apply that phonics knowledge. Number 3, the student knows the vowel sounds but has not been taught when the vowels will say each sound. Number 4, the student tries to decode or sound out sight words. And number 5, they have been taught or encouraged to guess. Now let's get into each one of those in a little bit more depth. Number 1, dyslexia. Dyslexia is a common hereditary condition that causes reading and spelling difficulties in about 20% of the population. It affects the way a person processes language, whether orally or in writing. Someone with dyslexia will likely struggle with phonemic awareness, which is being aware of and able to discriminate between the smallest units of sound within a word. And this lack of phonemic awareness is the number one reason a person will struggle with processing language. If someone has difficulty processing the sounds in a word, they will certainly have trouble with spelling, and reading will not make sense. To them, the letters in a word do not correspond with what they are able to process auditorily, so reading and spelling will be a guessing game. Dyslexia can also cause significant challenges with memory and directionality, each of which can impact reading and writing. And it is for each of these reasons that a student with dyslexia needs a highly specialized instructional program that caters to the unique needs of the dyslexic mind. Research has shown that Orton-Gillingham-based reading programs are the most effective for dyslexic learners. Learn Reading is just one example of a multisensory Orton-Gillingham-based reading program. And for more information about the Learn Reading program, there is a link for you in the description below. Number 2, a lack of applied phonics. If you know a struggling reader, you may notice that they know phonics just fine, but they do not apply that knowledge when they go to decode a word. You may wonder why a student can articulate each sound within a word, but then not be able to blend those sounds together to form the word. This lack of understanding of how to apply phonics is a major reason why many students struggle with reading. Many students know how to read in their mind, just not through their mouth. They understand the process, they just cannot execute it until they are taught how. Learn Reading employs the unique pencil reading method to teach a student exactly how to blend individual phonemes together to create a word. And this pencil reading technique allows the student to dot each sound prior to blending, figuring out the vowel sounds beforehand, which will be mentioned later, and then connecting the dots all in one breath to tie those phonemes together, creating a word. And when this happens for a student and the process of controlled blending finally clicks, the world of reading suddenly opens up for these students, and it is a beautiful thing to experience and to watch. And I will have a link in the description below to another video that describes pencil reading in a lot more detail. Number 3 is vowel confusion. Let's face it, the vowel sounds can be confusing. And then when you throw in silent E or vowel teams or words like short or long. No wonder a student wonders what is going on with these vowels. There are so many vowel sound choices that a student who is struggling to read may simply give up and resort to guessing and just moving on. What choice do they have when they have been taught what the vowels will say, but not when they will say each sound? A student does not have to wonder what the vowel sounds will say. When they come to realize this, even the most difficult words become approachable, and the fear and the frustration that once accompanied reading can be replaced with confidence and accuracy. Here is a sneak peek into one simple trick, the Tap 2 method developed by and taught in the Learn Reading program. This is just one simple way to eliminate this vowel confusion. Simply put, when a student comes to a vowel in a word, they tap 2 with their pencil, the next 2 letters, because they will be pencil reading. This means that they will check the next 2 letters after the vowel, and if one of them is another vowel, then the vowel that they were on will say its name or its long sound. It's that easy. No confusion, no wondering, no frustration, just tap 2. Simple. And all of these tips, including Tap 2 and everything within the Vowel Placement Strategy, are taught in the Learn Reading program, and you can find that at learnreading.com, and I have a link for you in the description below. They are explained in a lot more depth and detail there for you. Number 4 is sight word confusion. True sight words are those which do not follow typical phonetic patterns. They are essentially rule breakers. Struggling or emerging readers should not ever attempt to decode a sight word. Those words need to be taught differently, and I refer to them as true sight words because many people confuse sight words with high-frequency words. However, several high-frequency words can be sounded out quite easily. True sight words cannot and should not be decoded. They need to be taught as a whole unit. Learn Reading teaches sight words one at a time and in a very different way from all other words. There is no pencil reading done, no placing a dot underneath each sound. Instead, the student is taught to circle each sight word to remind the mind not to break down that word into its decodable graphemes, but to view the word as a unit. Sight words are learned by repetitive, positive exposure, and we use lots of games and activities. And the sight word snowball technique, which is also linked for you in the description below to another video that I have, also helps a lot in learning these difficult words. Soon, the student should begin to identify sight words in a sentence and recognize that they are able to read them as a whole unit and not as some of its parts. The students then become expert sight word finders, and those words will no longer cause confusion. Number 5 is perpetual guessing. Guessing is not an effective tool when learning to read. Guessing should not be taught as a reading skill. Some students are taught to look at the picture clues or think of the context clues or look at the first few letters and then guess. Well, this turns the students into good guessers, not good readers. For many students, guessing is the only method that they use when they try to read. These well-meaning kids simply do not know how to not guess. They don't trust that not guessing will work. And that is why controlled vocabulary is essential when teaching reading. A truly effective reading program will use extremely controlled text in all of its instructional materials. And anything that a student is asked to read should contain only the words that the student has learned how to read. They may not have ever read those words before, but they will know how to read them. This is where the student can finally build trust with the reading process and themselves and begin to break that dependence on guessing. Learn Reading teaches phonemes and graphemes one at a time and in frequency order and using carefully controlled text. This way, a student only needs to remember the sound of one grapheme in each lesson, and then they are only presented with words, sentences, and stories that include the graphemes that they have already learned. This allows the student to trust the text, trust the process, and finally, truly begin to read. When these 5 reasons are addressed, if a child is dyslexic, if they are provided with the appropriate instructional materials, if they learn how to not decode sight words, but to truly control their blending with phonetically typical words, if they are taught using extremely controlled text and taught how to not guess, those students can learn to read. If you'd like to learn more about the Learn Reading program, I do have a link to learnreading.com for you below in the description. And if you have any questions, I invite you to leave a comment below. I also invite you to subscribe to this channel if you are interested in learning about all things reading, because everybody deserves a chance to learn reading.